I'm Doug Jones, and you have discovered Beyond Trek Podcast.
On a red alert.
Glad I can be heard.
You sound fantastic.
Yes. Renzo sounds great.
Check.
That's good. Dag sounds good. Oh yeah, Dag, you definitely sound a lot better now too.
Yeah, I moved it. It's about 4 inches closer.
Oh.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
and we get to see the tribble too. So like he can chirp at us and purr.
Yes, I like the tribble. Now, so do you guys like this light that is coming in from the window? Because
looks heavenly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's that time of year where the sun's just kind of in this funny spot during this time. So, that's why. And I don't have anything to throw up there real quick because I was not expecting it coming that way. So yeah, glad I look heavenly, and I'm glad you guys are here. So
yes. Yeah, we're ready.
Should we introduce ourselves or just assume that everyone knows who we are?
Well, I'm Watney.
I'm Big J.
I'm Renzo, the fan turn co-host.
I'm going to be Dag today. No, I'm really Big J.
And I'm also Dag. And if you haven't seen episode 8 of season 3 of Discovery yet, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. And, you accept all risks for listening to the rest of the show. Away we go.
Yeah, this is season 3, episode 8, The Sanctuary. We got to see some cool canon building this episode for both the larger Trek universe, I think, and Discovery. Things that they've been alluding to. So you guys want to just get into it?
Yeah. The quest continues on another step. So
the quest for the Burns origin continues, and we did learn like something super big.
Oh yeah,
something that we seem to have ignored somehow in our previous episode reviews.
We did.
We didn't talk about the song very much.
Yeah, the song is.
You're right, but it plays a bigger part in this episode than before. So yeah, we'll definitely hit that one. So yeah, Watney, if you want to start us off, let's just dive right in.
Sure. And for our listeners who listen to us on Spotify or anchor.fm, we do have a YouTube. We like to look through some screen caps while we are recording these episodes for you, so you can see our faces on YouTube at Beyond Trek Productions. So let's go ahead and get into it. Scene 1 is in sickbay. This scene, or the episode, starts out with Georgiou. And she says something that I thought was super funny. She says, Emperor's personal physicians were buried with their emperors, and it incentivized loyalty. And I thought that was like a very, very cool way to start the episode. I don't know. I thought it was like some really great dialogue.
It's kind of morbid, but
I've been saying it all along. I think Georgiou's got the best witty one-liners or best quippy lines of the entire season. She's incredible this season.
Yeah, she is. I read this comment earlier today online that she was kind of like the Garrick of this show, or I'm sorry, of this season, which in a way, kind of, you've got that character with that kind of devious undertone. So I can kind of see that. And
you have to have that that character who kind of sits outside the bounds of all of the infrastructure, like authoritatively. So
it gives a good balance.
Just watch Georgiou uncover the Cisco assassination of Renak and really tear apart Navarre.
I totally anticipate her taking advantage of the broken galaxy. Like I totally think she's going to. So
it's in her nature.
Yeah. So I really love this opening scene because like Culber is so self-assured now after all of his like issues he had, and he just like totally butts up, like squares up to her, and I really liked that. Like it was cool. I thought that it was a great dynamic.
Yeah, with Culber, it's like you don't want this smoke. I mean, he has he's squaring up on her. Like, you are not, I'm not backing down. And I like that. I really like that toughness out of this guy, because you typically don't think of the ship's doctor being a badass, at least not in this way, where he doesn't blink when confronting her. And it's like, if you don't shut up and listen to me, then you're going to be put in a headlock or get an RKO or something. Like, he's not messing around.
Yeah. He obviously just wants what's good for her. It's a great scene because she kind of plays with him and says, like, if you had children, I would poison them or something.
If I had more time. Yeah. It was, if I had more time. And then his response was, if I had time, I would have kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I actually loved the line that was like, it takes this medical technology to disassemble me. I can disassemble you with a quippy phrase or a word.
A withering
That's so good.
glance.
Yeah.
I can cut you with my sharp tongue.
You can cut me. That's okay. So yeah, great scene. Burnham like comes in at some point and is like, I'm going to be here for you. And she just like isn't having it at all. She's super pissy. I love it. I mean, she's obviously in a time of crisis, like a personal crisis, but she doesn't know how to ask for help, and she's probably never had to do that. And she was expecting to die like before she jumped over to our universe anyway. So.
Well, like in the Terran universe, asking for help is a sign of weakness, and you don't make your way to Emperor by asking for help.
Yeah. So she's like, she's probably like letting them help her, obviously, because she's not like leaving the ship. But she's like, if I'm going to get through this, I'm going to have to express myself the entire time.
There's that really good moment though where she starts telling the assembled crew that like, well, I killed my mother, and then Burnham's like, no, you didn't. Just stop bullshitting us, right? It's very clear that like she's aggrandizing some of her backstory, and Burnham's ready to call her on it, and everybody else is just over it too, because Culber was like, yeah, you keep being you, but we're gonna get this done. So I feel like the crew is finally accepting her because they've become inculcated to her.
Mm-hmm. Which is really kind of crazy if you think about it in terms of like Star Trek. This is a person who has admitted to multiple genocides, and we're just okay with them wandering the ship.
Worse than Space Hitler. Yes.
A little bit.
But I mean, what are you going to do with her?
You put her in the brig for the rest of her natural life.
She gets a badass death scene. That's what happened to Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
No. So let's guess here, right? What's probably going to happen is this is the way that they send her back in time somehow, or something happens so that she can be in that Section 31 show, right? Which we know she's going to be a part of.
Fuck,
we know that's coming. So it's going to be some sort of like. Go.
What if the Section 31 show takes place in the 32nd century?
Yes, that's what I was
also
thinking.
I'm hoping for that. I would love to have Cronenberg be like her boss in every episode.
I think that would be a much better choice too. But I'm afraid they're probably just going to like be like, oh, she's got temporal instability. She just can't exist in this timeline because she's from another universe and not this timeline. We need to send her back, and they figure out a way to send her back.
You know, we already have the answer to that. Remember the armbands from Timescape that put a field of time around you?
Oh yes.
Just put one of those on her. She'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it would be a big mistake if
a personal temporal.
Assuming they still have the tech, that tech might have gone away.
I heard that in Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. Big mistake.
I cut you off, Big J. What were you saying?
I was going to say, I think it would be a big mistake to have Georgiou and the Section 31 thing happen in the past. It needs to be here. We've got certainly enough of a universe where Section 31 is probably needed even more than it would be to do yet another prequel show to have to listen to the anger and the complaining and the everything else over that. There's already enough kind of negativity around Trek. We don't need to send her back in time. There's no reason to.
There might very well be a reason to, if she's having medical issues because the universes are so displaced now that she's like basically unraveling. Like, I think they're setting it up to send her back, and it would be dope to see a Section 31 show along with like the Strange New Worlds, like parallel to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because now that Section 31 has been pretty much burned to the ground because of Control just taking everything over, like in that timeline, they're going to need someone to like rebuild it. And she was pretty loyal to like the actual Federation. She tried to like fight Control at one point. And yeah.
Okay.
So I could see both. Like,
I like your idea, Watney, there for you to have like a darkish show and a lightish show, both taking place in the pre-Kirk time. I think that's a good idea. But just as another idea, though, there's also a change in post Sloan, so post Deep Space Nine, what Section 31 was like, because we know that Boimler and them in Lower Decks talk about Section 31 not like it's this big evil boogeyman that's out to get everyone, right? It's got more of a like it's just clandestine ops, right? They're just a thing. So maybe Section 31 goes through cycles of being super dark and edgy, like they were with Sloan and like they were with Control, and then other times where they're just a little less off the books than regular Starfleet intelligence, right? And now when she gets sent back in time to rebuild it, she gets to rebuild it correct, the right way. Good people doing tough jobs, kind of thing, right? CIA kind of things, right?
She's the opposite of that.
But she'd be the right person to lead that.
Just want to note there that, throwing the word CIA in there may not necessarily be the heroes doing bad jobs that we think they are.
Fair.
That's
but I mean,
the nature of the work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Section 31 could absolutely be like morphing to like whatever they need at that section area of the timeline. But I think if we think about like the Federation now where Burnham sits in this timeline, there isn't a huge Federation by which to protect Section 31 and to offer this like huge, like these wings that cover it. They're like the Federation is so small that having Section 31 now could irrevocably harm their reputation.
Yes.
If people found out that these guys were with the Federation, because there's already so much distrust.
The level of distrust is too high, but I have this funny feeling that if Michael Burnham were like real right now, her ears would be burning or hair sitting on her neck because we haven't talked about her much yet, and she's the Messiah of the show.
Well,
so
one
we should
small correction I
probably
want to make though.
Okay.
Like I happen to live in the DC area, which means I happen to know people who work for the Three Letters and such, and I happen to know that that's a thing. Surprise, right? So I don't think the CIA is the correct thing to compare to Section 31. Big J's or Dag is right on that. The correct thing to compare the CIA to is actually Starfleet Intelligence. So the ones that are an avowed intelligence agency. They do clandestine stuff, but they are the official one. They just do their jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if that is questionable sometimes. With you there, Dak. No disagreement on that.
It's like
But
Wolverine.
The thing to compare Section 31 to is more along the lines of like truly black projects, people whom like if they're not aligned on a budget somewhere, they aren't actual government employees, they don't have a badge to show you kind of thing. So they're another layer of dark underneath that.
But they have all those classification numbers that when you call them out and the lackey plugs them into the computer, everybody goes wide-eyed and somebody goes along and says, "How can I help you, sir? Whatever you need."
What was the name of the organization? Scandal? The Scandal group was equivalent to that?
I never saw that show.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So we hop over to the corridors where Book and Burnham have a chat. He apparently got a message from Kaheem, his brother, not biological brother, but his like avowed brother. And Kwejian, am I saying that right, guys?
Brother from a different mother.
Kwejian needs help, which is his homeworld. Kaheem sent a message to them asking for it. He asks for Michael's help and Michael asks for Vance's help. And you kind of have to make a case here, a really strong case, in order to get the spore drive used for this kind of mission. And so Book kind of gives us some background on Kwejian. He says when the burn hit subspace damage shifted the moon's orbit for his planet, which is fucking bonkers to me, first of all, but that shifted the moon's orbit. And so all these sea locusts came out of the ocean and started eating all their harvests. And so all these people were dying because they couldn't eat. They had no food. And so the chain offered help in this moment of crisis. And now the chain is coming back and they're like, Osira is tormenting this planet and it's his home planet. And so Vance is really hesitant to get involved, but he's because he said that the chain has taken like prime directive violations and made them into an art form or something.
This is a really interesting concept when he brings up the fact that it shifted the orbit of his planet. Now, however the burn affected that is irrelevant to me in my argument, which is, remember when CD Alpha 6 exploded and CD Alpha 5 got shifted in its orbit? It only took like 20 years for CD Alpha 5 to become a wasteland. It's been 100 years since the burn, and this place is still kind of okay.
Well, it depends on just what kind of shift it is, right? Like
It's very true. Yes.
Earth is off its tilt by only a dozen degrees or so, right? If you added maybe 4 or 5, winters become desolation-causing events, and summers become never-ending, right?
He's not talking about the axis, though. He's talking about a shift in the eccentricity of the orbit around the sun.
Yeah. And even that, remember, for our Earth, our summer is we are further away from the sun than we are in winter, right? So there's
at least
ton of mechanics.
Our hemisphere is.
Sure.
Right.
Well, I love that you guys get into like orbital mechanics together. I just learned a lot.
But here's the thing, though, Dag. SETI Alpha 6 exploded.
Mm-hmm.
That explosion was enough to shift that orbit of SETI Alpha 5. But in this case, we're not talking about a planetary body like that exploding. It's a shock wave or an event that had a central point that spread out, and not something that's enough to shift the orbit that drastically. Not like SETI Alpha 5.
I would like to hope so. The loss of SETI Alpha 5 would have changed the gravitational area of CD Alpha. What is it? CD Alpha 6 explodes.
Yes.
So there's not enough gravity holding CD Alpha 5 in its current orbit, so it slips a little bit closer to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but for this case, I don't even think it's a matter of that. I think it's just a matter of their tides, right? Like they talk about the moon is what shifted. So moons generally control tides.
It's the moon.
Yeah.
Smaller body.
Right. It's not even just that. It's just the moon is what controls tides on Earth, right? It peaks and wanes along with the moon. So if their moon is now further away, then they don't have tides, right? And if they don't have tides, then maybe the sea locusts don't get the nutrients that they expect or whatever, or maybe they have too many tides or the tides are too strong and now they're scared of the water. Who knows? That's an easy one to
how does an aquatic life form float in the air like the sea locusts do?
It's an alien planet.
Space magic.
Yeah, I mean, it's
on Patrol. We saw a fish dolphining and then it flies up into the air.
I've seen enough Titan AE to say, okay, they're filled with hydrogen.
That's like just a moment of pause for that wonderful, wonderful movie.
And going
I grew up watching that. Like I think I have it on VHS.
I had it on VHS too.
Jeez.
Yeah. So Vance is very, very hesitant, but I really like him.
I do too.
Like,
that's
he kind
Smolder.
of brings this well, I like him his command style as well as his face, but
I'm still really interested why they make it seem like the spore drive is still the only spore drive they have and they're not working on a project to replicate that.
Well, you just answered your own question.
That keeps Discovery special.
Well, Dag, I think you answered your own question, is that they are working on it. I think this is one of those cases where, and the reason Vance is so cautious about having Discovery go anywhere that might have even an ounce of possible confrontation is right now Discovery is their most valuable asset. So he's not going to send it anywhere where there could be some danger because they are still working on replicating that. Now, you may be asking, why is it in the 32nd century they can't just do a scan or whatever and just crank out some spore drives? Well, the reason, here's what I'm going to use behind that. I saw another thing that the reason that so many here on Earth, so many Roman era buildings are in such well condition and still intact was because back then they mixed volcanic ash into the cement in the construction, which is something that we are still trying to figure out how to replicate.
Right. The ratio of that to make those lasting buildings. Yeah.
Right. So you would think that here we are in 2020, something that was hundreds of years ago would be just like you said with the spore drive. Well, not really. We know they did it. We know it's there, but we haven't gotten it right.
Yeah.
Still can't do it. So
yeah, I think like there's definitely plot that can kind of protect the value of the spore drive like at this time. But I think like at some point they're going to need to crack it. Like, and hopefully they do, because they're at still a very big disadvantage.
We're going to need an episode 10 shootout like we almost got in Picard, where Discovery and Osira's ship are like hanging out with each other. And Osira's like, looks like you're all alone. And Discovery's like, well, we have friends. And then like 20 other starships spore drive in. Like, yes, can we fight?
I don't want that.
Can we fight?
That would be badass.
They're going to have to like they're going to have to nuke the spore drive, because if you're going to continue in this timeline, it's too fucking OP. It just is too OP. So there's going to have to be something that happens to Stamets. And given the way that him and Adira bonded this episode, I'm totally now thinking that something's going to happen to him.
You're right. It's like, it's kind of, you kind of can't accept that they cannot reproduce it, even though there's past history that says just because you're in the future doesn't mean you can replicate something that was done in the past, just like that example I gave. Mm-hmm. But then also at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if they have, maybe it's just one other ship gets it. It doesn't mean that even if they figured out that they can mass produce it, it's like, okay, we figured it out, but we can only, we only have the one, and we're going to put that on the Voyager J. I don't know. It doesn't mean that they're going to suddenly have 20 of them. They don't have to.
Nope, totally agree.
They put it on the Voyager J. Voyager J gets lost in another galaxy.
So here's a really easy explanation for it. We remember from the first season, maybe it was second season, the first couple seasons Discovery kind of blend together for me, where they talk about how overuse of the spore drive could lead to the destruction of all existence or all life in existence.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's only certain ways or so many people or so many jumps that can happen at a time, right?
And
so it can never become a widespread tech.
What's going on with the Romulans not handing over their singularity drives?
They probably ran out of them when their sun exploded and their people were partially genocided.
The technology has to still exist somewhere. It's not like they burned the library of Warp Alexandria or something. Like, anyway, let's keep going. So Vance is like, you can do this, but you have to get out of there. If anything happens, you have no idea what Osira is capable of. You're new here. She's the biggest bully on the block. So we go to Hun Hao, which is where we spent a couple episodes ago, the salvage planet. And we meet Osira. Her makeup looks really weird. I don't like how that makeup looks, but she
does not type.
Oh, look at those nails. Yeah, look at those Lee press-on nails. She doesn't type on any kind of keyboard or anything. Well, and Watney, that was another topic that I read a discussion on in regards to the Orions, and they're supposed to be aliens. And that's the thing, is because someone said they kind of have a waxy look. Well, when you really think about it, they're supposed to kind of have that odd, unsettling look, because they develop on a completely different planet from us. We don't have any green people or blue people.
Okay,
nothing
I'll
like
take it.
that. So
that's fine. She speaks to Tolor, and she is pissed that he lost Rin. Yeah, it's Rin.
Rin. Yeah. Yep. Ren, not Reese.
I know. Ren and Reese were in the same room this episode. My mind just went. But she's really pissed that he let Rin go, and so she basically beams him up to this place on her ship where she has these trance worms, and they eat him. At least her ship is cool.
The whole her rise to power statement that she gives, where Tolor saying, "I understood why you had to kill my dad. I totally understand. You did what you had to do." That is some real sadistic shit, right? To get the kids of someone that you kill to say that they understand why you killed them.
Yes,
that is an interesting twist there for how she rules. She rules with absolute authority.
Right, and that's why we need someone like Georgiou to be the one that. I want to see a big confrontation between her and this lady, because you're right. That is some morbid stuff.
Oh, I would love that.
Yes.
That would be so good.
Georgiou
So after Tolar dies, we cut to the title sequence and we read that.
Hey guys, we hit the credits.
We did. This episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Yes, I love
Who's
when I
that?
see two takes.
So anyway, scene 4 again in the Discovery corridors. Chili's doing like her administrative stuff with Saru, says that they're going to jump to Kwejian. Linus is shedding. She's performing her exo duties. She's doing a good job. This is all administrative stuff, so it's not like a heat of the moment decision that she's making, but so far so good for Tilly. Saru is having her work on a go to warp phrase for her, and I think I forgot what it was, but it doesn't sound good yet. I'm sure they're workshopping it.
He doesn't want to use hit it because that was Pike, so he's trying to come up with his own thing. Just what
was his one this episode?
Execute.
No, that was one of the ones you used. The other one was like
what was the first one?
It wasn't materialized, but it was something like that.
I thought it was execute was the first one, and everyone looked at him weird, and he's like,
That's the first one he said, but it's not the one that they talked about during the scene, though.
There's two,
yeah,
I think. Yeah.
When they're walking into engineering, there was one he tried using, and Tilly was just like, but yeah, damn, I can't remember what it was. All right, well, we're gonna have to keep going.
Yeah. So they hop into engineering, and Stamets wants to report on the Navarre data that they got from Burnham's efforts in the previous trial episode. Saru's really awkward. I don't know why I wrote that in my notes, but I guess I was feeling it. They basically announced to Saru and Tilly that they found where the burn started, and it was in the Verubin Nebula. There's some unusually intense radiation and highly unstable electrical fields, They found the point of origin, basically, and the signal's coming from the center of the nebula. There's something that's definitely sending it. And they find out that the frequency is like in the audio range. So they adjust the scan to that, and you can hear the song that was mentioned like 3-4 episodes ago.
Yeah, well,
that we never talked about.
It's the song that Gray was playing on his was it the cello?
Yes,
or something like that. It was the song that the
Barjan's listening to.
Yeah, Barjan's we're listening to.
Humming.
So right, the humming. So it's something definitely in the ether. And Saru, it looks like he has this, I guess, increased hearing ability because they kind of focus in on his ear. He hears something.
When you are a prey animal, you develop really good hearing.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, that's where Gray's cello and the seed chip.
It's cool for Saru to like bring something like that to the table here, because he's so often just like making decisions, but something like special about him was really useful.
Mm-hmm.
But if Nog had been here, they'd have figured that out before Saru even walked in the room.
Yeah, you just get a Ferengi involved. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of this in the beta canon stuff too. Like they'll have like, oh, you're Saurian, you see slightly different spectra. What do you see here? Or they do that with Geordi sometimes in TNG, right? Like they make sure to take advantage of any sort of special skills that crewmates have got. So
yeah, that's really, I think it's like something I feel like I've been missing.
Idic.
What I really love about this close up here is you can see under the skin, and just the texture of the skin. The makeup, maybe possibly. I mean, we know that when he's wearing the makeup, it's not panels. We actually saw that video where he's like putting on the makeup. But here you can see stuff just under the skin, and there's a different kind of skin texture that adds to that alienness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also
wet.
This is also the closest, the first ear close up since Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah!
Wow!
The SETI, the eel coming out of Chekhov's ear.
We've seen ear close-ups with like
not like that.
The Ocampa. We saw the Ocampa ears from real up close at least once in Voyager because they're fucking weird looking.
Well, not that close. We're not talking Chekhov's ear close. That's a whole different kind of closeness, right?
I mean, I can tell that Saru's medulla oblongata is enlarged from here. So,
okay.
And we're bringing you the hottest hitting topics on Beyond Trek podcast.
But no, I like the effect there, right? Because we're clearly looking at like the prosthetic and then enhanced with CGI on top, and it looks really good.
Yeah, it looks like they added a little bit of moisture too to like the little canal. I was like, looks good. It's very believable. Like it's like Saru's makeup to me is so well done, and then I see the Orions.
Sure.
And okay, Big J, like I get it. Like, it's supposed to be aliens,
Well,
but
Yeah,
let's
there's-
look at the Andori or
it's
the Orion makeup over the
uncanny.
years.
it's uncanny valley is what I'm getting, and that's why it's uncomfortable. Like, anyway, so they like narrow down the biological like magic stuff, and they find this lower frequency, this lower.
They
like,
do a bunch of bibbity bop boo boo.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo, and they they're able to say that the song is like being interpreted. It gets interpreted as a distress signal coming from a Federation vessel.
Yep. There's a Federation vessel stuck in the middle.
Or
of
it's a Federation distress call, like with a
Yeah.
different ship. Like it could be anything. There's a ship lost in the nebula. And then there's a really nice moment with Adira and Stamets, and Adira tells him that they prefer they them pronouns. Yay. Which is really quite lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I
And he
think
accepts it, and it's like, this is life. We're going on.
right. I would have to hand it to the writers in this, because this was the first time that the pronoun, the transgender the issue in Star Trek was handled not by alien science or having a symbiont in you or anything else. It was just a natural. That was the decision, was that they said, I never really felt like a she or a her, and this is not something that started with getting the symbiont, which is great. So we actually have a real now, I think, well written, and you're right about Stamets is just he's okay, and that's
Yeah.
there.
They did a
It was
really
well
good
acted.
job. They did a really good job of making sure that this wasn't the symbiont influence, that this was Adira's preference. And that's a very strong message to make about a group of people who don't have Star Trek heroes that represent them. And now they do.
In a positive way,
Right.
Not a
Not an
throwaway character.
intended Kira evil and also bisexual kind of way.
Right. Yeah. It's a very
There's
much,
nothing wrong with being evil and bisexual.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with
she can
that.
be evil
So-
and bisexual. I'm just kidding. But no, what I found most heartwarming about that scene, honestly, was the fact that Adira's character clearly presents this, and she's like ready to fight about it. She's ready to argue. She's ready to take some sort of continuing discussion on it. And Sam's just like, okay, cool. And you can like see the relief in Adira's face. Like she looks relieved that she doesn't need to justify it or anything else. It's just, all right, cool. We're
Now-
going on.
A lot of people have been discussing this online, being like, I refuse to believe that in the 32nd century, people aren't just out and it's okay and they have to have these conversations. And I'm like, well, at some point you have to assert, at some point, but also this was definitely, to me, this was a meta moment. This was a meta moment that needed to happen, that Star Trek needed to do for the audience. And it kind of breaks the fourth wall there, which I'm totally okay with. Yes, I firmly believe by the 32nd century, there aren't going to be any hijinks around a person's gender identity. I don't believe in that at all. When we were doing Trek RP, we considered SRS an outpatient surgery, and we've seen that in DS9 before. So SRS is totally a thing that's just, hey, you feel like that? We're going to do it. Cool. You've thought it through. This is what you want. We're great. But this was definitely a moment that needed to happen in the history of television, in the history of Star Trek, and for an audience that is now ready to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's super important that a non-binary character is played by a non-binary actor, and I think Blue Del Barrio does use they them pronouns.
Mhm.
There's a huge issue in Hollywood with people like Scarlett Johansson playing a transgender man, and
or Scarlett Johansson playing like everything that's not what she is, even
playing an
Ghost
Asian
Michelle
character.
Asian. Yeah, it's like, come on,
Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's a really beautiful
Mhm.
like thing to me to see that on screen, and I can only imagine how people in the community feel as well. So And what's really great is that Adira, like just going back to the episode, is cracking this algorithm to like help them narrow down more information about the situation with the burn. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on. So we hop over the corridors. Burnham like is talking to Book about like, hey, I didn't know you had a brother. And he's like, well, it's technically not my biological brother, but I call him my brother. And then he like started hunting transworms for the chain. And so we've been like kind of out of it. Like we haven't really been talking. So
right, kind of
they did the opposite things. Like his brother went and hunted transworms. I keep wanting to say transworms.
Transworms, yeah. I did the same thing.
And
Does
then
anybody have a theory as to why they want the transforms?
I don't know. Like what is the most, why are they important?
I don't know.
They can't just be as like your alliance to throw people into the pit with, right? Like there's got to be some reason why she's willing to supply food or resources to a planet for them.
They keep popping up.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, Tom.
We'll probably get more of their value later on, I would think.
Yeah.
The Federation starship that's stuck in the nebula is populated with a crew of transworms, and that's what she needs to break the code.
Well, if you use the Mandalorian as an example, there was an episode where the townsfolk and the Mandalorian had to do battle against a crate dragon, and as it ended up, like the meat was prime delicacy. Like this is something that you
and the ichor too.
Right. So maybe something like that. Like maybe they're not only can they put you in a trance before they kill you, so you can't really do anything, but they taste good.
Yeah. So we see in the next scene, we go to the bridge and then we like black alert to Kwejian, but we see Nilsson in the command chair here, which is pretty dope.
Again,
and she has some like pretty great lines in this episode, which I love. I just want to see more about her. Detmer is talking to Owoshukin about having fail safes, and I think she's still pretty unstable. Like she's still having trouble from like the culture shock and all the PTSD from the battle in the prior timeline before the jump. But she has some really cool spotlights in this episode too. So we black alert jump to Kwejian. There's no response upon the hail. But they can detect a heavy cruiser coming in and on long range sensors, and it'll be there in like 30 minutes. So Burnham and Book just like go down. I think they transport down, right?
Yes, they transported down. Yes.
Yeah, because the ship was still in the
right for later.
Yeah, but there was like something wrong with the signals on the planet, so I'm surprised they were able to safely do that. But
they could safely beam down outside of like there was this area that had a scattering field kind of thing.
Oh, the defense system.
Right, the defense
Probably
system.
What was going on?
They beamed down outside of that and then had to walk the rest of the way in.
Yeah. So Burnham is like super in tune with herself in this episode, and I really loved it. She was just like kicking ass, and it wasn't like the what's going on with Burnham episode. It was a lot of like the more side characters. So we go back to sickbay where Georgiou comes in wearing white.
Talking about looking like a sperm.
Yeah.
She's wearing white. She never wears white.
Yeah, it is a different look for her.
Yeah.
Is she a Jedi now?
She
got moves like one.
Yeah.
She's absolutely a Sith.
Can we just rewrite moves like Jagger to moves like Jedi and go on?
So she gets like knocked out by the medical advancement.
Count backwards from 5.
Stare.
I don't need to count.
That reminds me of when I got my wisdom teeth out, because I was under Twilight sedation, and she was like, I want you to count to 3 for me. And I was like, what? Like,
yeah,
I was out. That was like the same thing.
Just instantly
Yeah. And Culber's like, man, I love this technology, because now she doesn't get to like shit talk on the entire procedure.
Right.
You see like the same holographic displays on the biobed coming up as we did with the, what are they called? Tiki?
The what?
They have like the
ones at the Prion. Yeah.
Just ignore me. Audience, you let us know, because I totally forgot.
Well, it's a cool advancement to the biobed tech, because now it's a holographic scanner instead of that iron lung they would put you in on TNG.
Totally
that was just like a budget constraints thing. Yeah. I mean, well, they had those panels on the iron lung that would just like see through you though, but now it's just, cooler.
Yeah. So that's pretty much where the scene is like Georgiou gets knocked out. We hop on over to Adira's quarters. Stamets comes in and kind of talks to them and says like, Adira tells Stamets that Gray isn't talking to them anymore, and that Gray needs some space. And I think that Adira is kind of struggling with the Trill inside them. Like, there's a lot of personalities, and so I'm sure it's really
Gray's like a ghost. Why does he need a space?
I don't know.
Okay.
Trill stuff. It's all kind of magical, as we like found.
It may have something to do with, the acclimation process as a human with a symbiont. Gray's visual manifestation might have also been some kind of coping mechanism to help Adira acclimate to the symbiont. And now that things are becoming more normalized for that relationship, it just the visual representation doesn't need to be there anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I would think like Gray is trying to help them like transition into the being a host, because it's like a super shock.
Okay.
So Stamets plays with them, and there's like this little electronic metronome on the piano, which I have like my old metronome from high school and stuff, like just on display. So I just thought that was really cool. I'm assuming that that's a metronome.
It is.
Yeah, really beautiful scene. I love the bonding going on. It's like a mentorship, We hop on over to the ready room where Tilly and Saru are working together. They're actually doing quite well in the roles together.
They really are.
Rin comes in and requests to leave the ship, and he does it very rudely, and Tilly does this like weird like thing.
Right.
I didn't really like that. I didn't like that.
I loved
really cringy. It was cringy to me.
I loved it.
Why are you saying that? Because you're the XO now? I don't know.
I loved it. She was like, with the respect the badge deserves. And it's funny to me because Mary Wiseman, who plays Tilly, is married to the actor who plays Ren in real life.
Oh, really?
Good.
So I just think that, whether or not that was fitting for the character to do, Tilly has shown that she can step into the boots of a mirror universe butcher with the same name. So her standing up and being like, again, with the respect the badge deserves, I'm just like, yep, that's cool.
It fits Tilly. There is not another character in Trek that I could see having said that, done that like that. But to me, that was not out of character for Tilly. Like that seemed like that was an absolute natural kind of thing that she would do and say in that situation.
She is a command division person who has kind of hero worshipped the command positions. And now she's in a role where she has the authority to do what she has seen countless other first officers do, and she's doing it.
I've never seen a first officer demand something be rephrased like that.
But most captains would say that themselves, right? But
Picard would be like, okay, what do you need? Like, he wouldn't even bother about.
Jellicoe would have just stared at this guy across the room until the guy got the hint.
Like, if you're a captain on a starship, if someone insults you, you should just move on.
Can you imagine Janeway handling this guy? She'd have him like thrown out and have him brought back in once he's cooled down.
Well, Riker,
she would handle it herself. She wouldn't.
Right. That's the thing.
XO to do
other CEOs would have handled it themselves, but I'm not sure Saru would. Saru is kind of a bitch about these things.
Yeah, it just sat really weird with me. Yes.
Got a hand raise over here. Riker did that to Geordi LaForge in Counter Farpoint. Geordi just came bouncing up to him to tell him about something. Riker said, "Is this a official report, Lieutenant?" And Geordi, stiffened up at attention and rephrased what he said to be more like
official,
right? More official, and not so much like hey buddy, there's some shit happening down here. And so yeah, it's not often, but it has been done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it has, but it just seemed really weird and like defensive of Saru, which I don't think he really needed that, given what he tells him, which is, hey, you don't want to leave and get down there because Osiris coming. So he kind of diffused the situation that way.
Well, Watney, last week I got my ass peppered and grilled over the romance thing, so I'm not crossing you. If you didn't like how Tilly did the thing, then okay.
I'm allowed to not like it.
That's fine. I didn't say you couldn't.
I feel like,
Oh,
honestly, given what we know of Tilly, this is a little performative from her because she was so doubtful. So
She's acting up for sure.
Yeah. And it just like, it seemed a little over the top to me. Anyway, we're going to move on.
I don't disagree. I just thought it was great.
Yeah. You're totally legit. So we hop down to Kwejian in Burnham and Book are looking at these sea locusts, and apparently Book is like some kind of like forehead, like man behind the curtain forehead alien where he can like control like all of
Space Druid.
These
space
locusts. Druid. It's really weird because like can he do that with everything else? Every other living
At
thing?
least things from his planet, we've seen him do it too.
Yeah.
So he did it to the transform and he's now done it to the jellies. So
he basically just asked them to like give them space, which the locusts do. It's really like Avatar to me. It does look like a regular forest. Like
I did think the space locust looked very Avatar-y, but the way he phrases it, it's like it's not a command, it's a request. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of this 1996 John Travolta movie called Phenomenon, where he develops, I'm going to spoil that movie for you guys too. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. He develops a form of cancer that enhances his brain instead of deteriorates it. It's still going to kill him, but he develops like strong empathy and telekinesis. And somebody's like, hey, can you make da-da-da-da happen? And he's like, well, it's not really like making it or forcing it. It's sort of asking the matter to do the thing, and he pulls a wrench closer to him when he's working on a car, and he makes his sunglasses dance in his hand. And I just like the fact that like Book acknowledges like, I'm not controlling or forcing. It's really just a strong request.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. So for me, what it reminded me of was the ecomancer Tula in Pirates of Dark Water, how she could communicate with nature and animals, and she always respected them and asked them to do things for her. So it's like essentially druidism. That's basically, I like space druid is how this is being termed. I think that
great.
Was,
yeah, I really like it. It's cool to see more empathy being used in like a different way other than like traditional Troy. So the forest is really pretty. It looks like a typical deciduous fall day. And we basically get ambushed by what's his name? Kwejian? That's the guy's name.
It sounded like Kwejian.
Yeah, Kwejian.
Don't quote me on it.
And he calls Book Terex.
Yeah, Terex.
Terex.
That was his real name.
Names so the way they are.
I don't know.
We can't complain about things being too much like Earth and then not enough like Earth, right? Like
you're right.
The leaves look like the stuff you put out of your gutter, but now the names.
But
are
it's
really
like
weird.
there's a difference between thoughtfully naming something and then like keyboard smashing for the hell of it. Like
some of this can be chalked up to the writers who played D&D, and they wanted their characters to be super edgy and have unpronounceable names.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Instead of just being like,
the names have like umlauts and stuff just to make the names fit.
yeah. Well,
they
and
never
again,
pronounced the umlaut.
we're talking about alien planet. You're not going to name your children Bob or Jason or Susan.
Big J, you always take what I
He's
say and
reading a
make
book.
it like the extreme.
I do
Of
not.
what I don't mean. Like I
When?
like,
Nuh-uh.
Right now, you really kind of just equated it to being Earth when Watney was like, it's not really Earth.
right. And I said I said last episode, I was like, I would like romance to be a part of the plot. And you were like, Trek can't be all about romance. That's not what I'm saying.
I didn't say you said that.
Yes.
I mean,
You're-
we can't have Luoxana anymore, unfortunately, because that'd be
Why
a cool name.
not?
That'd be a great name.
The thing is
Sometimes
like,
I'm bad with
Luoxana,
words.
Everyone knows and loves Luoxana because she's such a vivid character and she's rememberable. But these guys we've never met, and they honestly did not impress me this episode at all. So, like, you can give a character a name like Luoxana Troy, holder of the Chalice of Reeks, blah blah blah, but like, make her be as good as that.
I mean,
when she
Osira is very memorable, and that's not a real name.
Osira
either.
absolutely is very memorable. It's a
I
great
think
name,
these
but
names-
it's not hard to say, and they kind of murmur the names here.
The,
Like they're
the
not
names are
being-
unnecessarily complicated.
Yes. So anyway, they get taken hostage, which reminds me a lot of like in Lord of the Rings when Frodo and the team go into Lothlorien and like they get like ambushed by the elves.
You just look at the forest that's all golden looking and it looks like Lothlorien.
Well, no, they like, you're here. No, let's take you into the fort. Like that's what that reminds me of. They're not like hostile. They're friendly, but they're like they don't like the situation. So
I like that their phaser guns are made out of wood.
Yeah, that was
they're
nice.
total space druids. Renzo's right.
He got it.
So they basically take them into whatever area they're going to. Like they greet him after not seeing him for a while. We hop over to sickbay in the Discovery. Georgiou's close to like redlining here. Like she's you could see her fake eyelash line there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's having like a total like meltdown unconsciously, like, and she's having flashbacks. There's some kind of shifting going on. Oh my God.
Yeah, what the hell is that about?
I totally know what that's about.
Oh, all right. Is it a spoiler?
It's not really a spoiler. It's just a thought I've been having about time travel, about how prolonged exposure to a time you do not belong in could probably violate one of the laws of thermodynamics in terms of creating or destroying energy. So, you know, given the fact that she's from a different universe already, her matter is already imbalancing that. And then also she's a time traveler. So a lot of the matter that she has consumed belongs from this universe, but not necessarily in this time. So there's just weird breakdown of stuff. It might even start to even affect the crew, but that's where my brain went with
Very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested to learn more. So there's like a pretty intense scene with Culber and the nurse and everyone, or the other doctor. I think
there's only two doctors that we know of. Yeah.
What's her name?
Pollard.
Dr. Pollard.
Pollard and Culber are on it together. So we see some kind of flashback, I think, with probably her mother and her, I don't know.
Someone's been stabbed and she's happened upon the scene, and that's like all we've been seeing of this flashback. Someone's stabbed and there's a lot of blood, but we still don't know who the person is on the floor.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm sure we'll find out. So we hop back down to Kwejian, where we learn like the price of transform meat is really high, and there's like there's lots of good tension. I will say the acting was very well done in this scene between them, and they kind of catch up. Burnham is like in the back, kind of letting him have his time with these people, and she's very helpful and confident. And Book is just like pissed off at them for basically selling out to Osira after all these years and kind of like partnering with her.
One thing I really like here in this particular image, the doors have handles on them. This is like a cool, comfy cabin. The doors aren't automatic. They're not going to slide open.
Contemporary cabin, yes. It's great.
I would call it.
It looks like a house in America.
I was going to say, it's contemporary today. Here, it's probably considered quaint and rustic.
Yes. Fireplace with pictures above the mantle.
We learned that Kahim has a daughter, and it was a daughter, right? Yeah. She might starve. It's
wasn't it a son?
A child. Let's just say, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a son because Burnham meets him at the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just kind of like a fill the time catch up scene. We go back up to orbit where Discovery is in view. It's a beautiful shot. Oh yeah. Yeah, looks great. And Osira's ship warps in, does the whole like warp stop thing.
Kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon in this particular image.
It has that like forked in the front shape, but yeah, the Viridian is what we learned it's called.
The Viridian. Yeah.
On a book ship gives me more of that Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
Feel.
I feel like book ships is the Millennium Falcon for sure.
I was gonna compare Book ship to Dash Rendar's ship, but that's beta.
Yeah,
that's old Legends. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Viridian warps in. Osira demands that Saru hand over Rin. Saru balks at it. Like, why would I do that? He's not like a Federation prisoner. Like, he's not yours. And she's like, well, he signed a contract with, Osira says, like, Rin signed a contract with us for life, so you need to hand him over. We go back down to Kwejian for a moment. There's a little more tension. Then we come back up to Discovery. There's a lot of hopping back and forth here as like things kind of escalate. She just demands Rin. She's going to give him 5 minutes or else she's going to like fire on the planet. Back down to Kwejian, Osira asks what's Kahim to give up. She basically holographically like goes down to
and she's making demands of
very much like Shinzon and Nemesis.
Yes.
How do you feel about the makeup on this scene, Watney? It looked a lot better in this scene for me than it did in the previous one because the lighting is more natural here, whereas the previous one on the planet was very red. Here it looks more natural.
I think when I thought of Osira, I just imagined a different person.
I'm just glad she's wearing lots of clothes. Like, that's a step forward. Besides Tendi, every Orion female we've seen is always wearing like rags, essentially.
Yeah,
true.
Besides Tendi.
It's the chin prosthetic that is messing with me for the Andorian characters because like Tolor had the same thing.
Yes, I think that's what's messing with me.
Just a very strong, pronounced chin.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They got Chad chins.
Chad chins. Nice. Osira says, well, you're going to give me Book and Burnham. And he refuses. And so there's a lot of manipulation that goes on here. And we see kind of how she tries to like wiggle things her way without necessarily resorting to force immediately. Like she tries to manipulate people. I'm surprised. Well, she probably can't use her pheromones holographically, but I'm sure that's a large part of her success is doing that. So she turrets his defense system and basically carpet bombs the planets because she wants Rin, and we learn later why she wants him. But
I have a thing I would just want to point out about that scene.
Mm-hmm.
So they kept calling them photon torpedoes, and I don't like it, right? Because they don't look like photon torpedoes. They're not moving like photon torpedoes that we've ever seen. They look more like energy weapons, and they behave like energy weapons, but they're being called a projectile. I'm just not a fan of this. It's almost lazy. It's kind of like the way quantum torpedoes in the second or third episode on Welcome to Earth didn't look like quantum torpedoes and didn't move like them. They moved like energy weapons. I don't get it. I just don't understand why they would do that.
I think there's going to be a lot of things that will get chalked up to it's 900 years in the future. I really think that that's going to kind of be the blanket explanation to a lot of these things.
If we had more time to speculate, I could
lazy.
offer some thoughts, but you're not wrong.
Mm.
yeah,
I did, however, love the planetary defense shields. I thought that looked great. The fact that they weren't trying to bubble the whole fucking planet. They were just above the forests is very energy efficient. Forget the upper atmosphere. Just protect what you care about.
right. And the generators are for sure on the ground, like we see, because Burnham and Book go out into the forest. But anyway, so we hop up back to the Discovery Bridge. Saru asks why Rin is wanted. He asks him, and he's like, I can't tell you. Or I'm not going to tell you. And he's like, well, okay. Georgiou sees her own medical scan and something like doesn't look right. So I think she kind of sees maybe what's going on with her. She says not Michael's name, turns Culber's there, says, you can't go to her. You're very ill. Come with me over here. We don't see Georgiou for the rest of the episode after that. Rin eventually I think he helps at some point. He owes Book. And so he goes with Detmer to Book's ship and like starts firing at Osira's ship, which was pretty cool. We go back down to Kwejian where Burnham and Book, they're trying to get one of the defense pillars like back online or something. So they're running through the forest. There's lots of firing going on. And then I think Kahim like fights him at the same, like there's a scene where
there was there was a fight between the two of them.
Yeah.
There was
So
that lovely
Detmer,
scene where they look up and see that Book sees his ship fighting the Viridian, which is
that
awesome
was cool.
looking.
Yeah.
He's like,
It
"Is
was
that
cool
my
to see
ship?"
that from orbit. It was kind of Star Warsy, where like
Oh yeah, the flight that Detmer was piloting them through, it looked like kind of the trench run for the Death Star, where they have stuff on both sides and just needle
definitely an
threading it.
X-wing against a big old Imperial ship.
It did. Well, they kind of made it one of those things where I think it was Tilly's idea that what if we had a
non-Federation ship do the fighting,
right, with a rogue pilot
who will be severely disciplined.
Yep. And so then Detmer's flying it, and then.
But I hate to say it though, that idea is something stuck in the centuries that they are from, right? Because that's an idea that might work against other countries, other governments, but it doesn't work against a rogue agent like Osira. Like she doesn't need to follow some kind of like treaty or rules. She's going to see like, this was an attack by your people.
Right. Yeah. Why
I'm
would
not
they
going to
think
fall for some stupid bullshit. This is clearly you guys, and we're going to make you pay for it.
Yeah. Why do they think that was going to work?
Because
Saru is a book follower.
Yeah.
That's
he
why.
is.
He's a rule follower, and this bit him in the ass.
Yeah.
It will bite them in the ass when they go back to Vance for sure.
I loved Ren's reaction to Grudge.
What is it? It's a cat. Is it kind of a pet? Can we just celebrate that Detmer finally got a cut loose and go amazing?
Yeah.
Her last scene.
I also love that she goes like full manual helm here, which is something we haven't seen since Insurrection. Mm-hmm. And at least it doesn't look like a joystick that you can buy in stores right now. It looks more like
a VR.
Well, you know what that actually looks like to me is an ergonomic. They make ergonomic mice now.
Yeah, that are
left
like
and
this.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that looks more like an ergonomic mouse.
Mm-hmm.
But it still looks super cool.
Yeah, she did a great job on the ship, and something she had never flown before. I'm sure she probably took it out for a spin or something with Book and Burnham, but like we get to see her kick ass, which is awesome.
And the fight itself was pretty cool, right? Like it was definitely non-standard for Star Trek. We don't normally focus on like fighters for things, but it was pretty cool. I liked it a lot.
I got severe vibes of the opening to Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
When Obi-Wan and Anakin are going through all those ships trying to get to
space battle,
weaving and bobbing,
the battle cruiser to get the Palpatine back.
Yeah, for sure. So we go back down to Kwejian where Kahim like basically fights Book. Book outdoes him, gets up, and Burnham's gonna like fire at him, but then he hands his gun over. Like, what the fuck? This was so confusing. He hands his gun back over to him, but Kahim is like, I can't do it. There's not like really any time to get to know this character. I feel like he was a flash in the pan. So
he was. I would have to say that all the stuff in regards to the planet and the whole conflict between Book and this brother from another mother, it didn't jive with me. It was like, I don't know. That was the one thing about this episode that I probably could have done without, is another shoehorning in some past relationship that we didn't see that's suddenly important for the plot.
Yeah.
I take it back. What this reminds me most of is a Star Trek episode from Deep Space Nine. The one with Nog taking over the ship, the Valiant, I think is what it was.
Yes.
That's what this reminds me of. Remember how they had that giant Dominion battle cruiser that they had to like fly in between two pillars and attack things, and that's what this reminds me of, had it worked.
Oh, well, Nog didn't take command of the Valiant.
No, right. Well, he should have at the end. Yeah. It was the waters and such. But that's the episode this reminds me of, because it was this whole like, we have to make this one good fly through run and get the two targets and then get the hell out of there. This time it worked. In the Valiant, it doesn't. Detmer's probably a better pilot than those Academy cadets.
Oh, probably. She's amazing. So yeah, there's a space battle. It's super cool. Osira like threatens Saru, like, I'm still gonna come after you.
Right, because you thought that was going to work.
Anything. Like Tilly's idea was kind of half baked, but I guess it achieved what it needed to, like in the moment. But like, I don't think Vance is going to like it at all. So we go back down to Kwejian, where, because of the decision that Kaihim made, his son is going to starve. Everyone's going to starve. So like we learned that Book is an empath officially. The two of them kind of put their empathic abilities together along with the Discovery. Discovery's helped like amplify the request, I guess, and that gets them to go back into the ocean.
Yeah, they shoot this weird beam.
Yeah, I don't know anything about
from the ship.
Is weird.
Yeah, what was that?
They didn't tell us. They didn't tell us, but we can hypothesize maybe it like enhances the telekinetic or energies, the telepathic energies or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was Reese, right?
Yes, Reese. Here's the
What's
problem.
really weird is this beam comes from underneath the saucer instead of the deflector
Not
dish.
the deflector. Usually
Right.
it's like, let's augment the deflector shield and make all this magic happen.
That's where the secondary deflector is. Maybe they use that one because they didn't want to risk the primary.
If we had time to go into it, I would dig in. But here's what I'm going to say about this that bothers me when Star Trek does this shit. You can't tell me that when you're designing a starship that you are building these things or the deflector to be able to do all this crazy stuff that you don't know what it's going to need to do, that it suddenly can do. There's
Programmable
this
matter. They tell it what they needed to do, and it assumes the shape.
No, but that's not. This isn't the first example of that. It's all through Star Trek. The magical navigational deflector can do all this crazy shit.
That's how Trek medicine is too. That's how everything works in Trek. It's just like, how do we like just talk about making shit work when no one would ever know how to do it now? It's
Like using the computer of an alien that you've just met. Yeah, as if, right? Who knows what kind of processes came behind their thought for making a software, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. That's just suspending our disbelief a bit.
This is just what happens when, in 2399, the Federation becomes aware of a dream corridor that lets you just imagine fixes to how your ship goes. Then the Federation is like, this, but on a galactic scale. And then you just take this little purple gimmick thing, and that's why they've got programmable matter.
Yep. So we hop back up to Discovery. Kwejian is apparently going to be just fine now that the locusts aren't eating all their food. And Detmer and Owo are celebrating in the mess, kind of like talking up their macho shit that they
Delightful
did.
scene.
Yeah. I love the crew dynamic. So Tilly talks to Rin and kind of encourages him, like, you don't have to worry. Like, we'll be fine. It's cool that they're married. I didn't know that. That's great. He says that he always thought that
he followed you on Twitter, Dak.
He says that he always thought the Federation was this big bad thing. Like his parents threatened to send him to Federation summer camp until he's like, yeah, that's definitely not a thing.
Any kind of summer camp.
Yeah, he confides in her like, hey, I'm the only one that knows this here, but the chain is running out of dilithium, and that's why she wants me back. And now you know. And she's like, oh, fuck, this is going to be like a big exo thing for Tilly. This isn't picking a warp to go to warp phrase. This is like a big decision. What are they going to do with it? So we go back to the Discovery. We're on the Discovery, but we go to the corridors where Burnham, Book, and Kaihim are like walking through, taking a tour, I guess. And Burnham takes his son off, like to go peel Linus's shedding skin, which was
we can get a piece of his face. Cool.
Yeah, I like her. I liked her dynamic with him. It was really, really cute. So Book and Kaihim have a moment in the hall, like they're brothers once again. Cut to engineering. Culber comes in, talks to Stamets. Adira is asleep kind of on the console. It's just like a very cute Bondy moment.
Everyone is nonchalantly using they, them, like it's not even a thing. It's great.
Yep.
Yeah, Culber doesn't even take a second to ask, like, they, them? No, nothing. It's just, he just jumps right in.
Word has spread and we move forward. It's great.
And then we cut to the last scene, which is Book and Burnham in like a cargo room. And he basically said, hey, Discovery saved my homeworld and I want more of that. Like, I want to keep doing that. And so he basically says like he wants into the Federation and he wants to be on the crew. And it's like it's an actually super cute moment between them. Like, I really enjoyed this.
Gasp, you liked a romantic scene?
Because it's like this
It's a good
conversation.
scene. No, I agree with you
like,
entirely, actually.
Yeah, it's good. It's like what we need to make it good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're getting more of it.
I think it's almost as cutesy as the previous scene with Culber and Stamets. I think their two scenes are just generally too adorable. So
I really enjoy Book and Burnham's friendship, which is like, you know, the foundation of like a relationship. Smile. I know. She's like, he just makes her happy. It's really cute. I'm into it.
Get you a lady that can smile at you like that.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. I know we only have a couple minutes. Anybody have anything that we didn't get a chance to say already?
I was not a big fan of the shoehorned in brother falling out, making amends kind of thing. I don't know. I just
historically, surprise brothers has not always been great in Star Trek.
It hasn't. It worked with Data and Lore. Didn't work with Worf and his out of the blue brother.
I think it's debatable. I mean, both of Worf's brothers were weird. Nikolai.
You're right. I'm talking about Nikolai, not.
Well,
not
I
Kern.
think Surprise Sister worked out great for Burnham. So.
Yeah, but and the whole like magical being thing from Discovery. That's a trope of Trek that I wish they could get away from. Is the navigational deflector can do whatever you want it to do because it was just designed to be magic. The Enterprise D did it with the thing shooting this beam. They did that a few times.
If we reroute a quantum resonance pulse through the bioneural interface in the lowered secondary deflector and aim it at the empathic energies manifesting on the planet, then we can create a massive empathic catalyst that will be able to communicate with all the organisms. Just watch. In a second, all the trees are also going to get up and move to the ocean. It'll be fine.
Right. And of course, whoever's operating shit up. Well, hold on a minute. Yeah, the USS make up shit. And whoever's operating that piece of equipment knows how to make it do what they're asking to do. Like what button here makes it do that? The
same button that fixed La Serena in the last episodes of Picard.
Yeah. I think that I wasn't like a really big fan of the narrative for this episode, but I do like that we got more progress on the chain narrative. We got some great personal scenes. We got some great spotlights, and it's all a result of not having Burnham be like the center of the universe. And I think it was really, really what I needed from Discovery. So while I wasn't happy with the narrative, I liked the structure of the episode and what we got to see.
Yeah, I'd say the episode was good, not great. I thought it was a perfectly fine story. It was pretty traditional Trek, nothing too crazy. Go to a planet, solve a thing, move on. I do just wish they would establish some sort of consistency for what weapons look like, right? Like the first season of Discovery, phasers were like pulsey bullshit things. The second season, they were long beams that never ended things. And now their photon torpedoes look like pulse phasers, right? Just like pick one, but pick one. Don't care, but pick one. And I'm not a fan of that. Otherwise, yeah, good, not great.
Well,
right on. Speaking of centers of the universe, Watney, do you want to tell our audience how they can find the center of our universe?
I would love to tell you, dear listeners, if you'd like to support us online, you can find us at Patreon, patreon.com/BeyondTrek. You can find us on Twitter at BeyondTrekPod and on Instagram at BeyondTrekPodcast. And then we do have a Facebook at Beyond Trek Productions. So check us out online. Come say hi, talk to us. We love chatting with you and talking about lots of Trek stuff. And I do want to give a special shout out to Stephanie Baker and Jim Cook, who are Patreon and Anchor donators. Thank you so much. We love and appreciate you. And John from Cygnus-X1.net, who provides the stills that we use for our YouTube content. So thank you, everybody, for your support. We really love and appreciate you.
All right. Thanks all. See you next episode.
Bye.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.